So good morning and welcome everyone. Just to remind you of our rules for today, please, this is intended as an interactive session. So please do raise questions or make comments, but use the chat box. Your mics will be muted and please keep your video off as well. So as questions occur to you, please raise them, put them into the chat box, and then I will moderate it for Tania, who's our presenter today. And I'll try and bring them in at a convenient time during her session. As you know, the focus of this session and our last conversation session was to look at BEE and try and get some idea what are the clever things that people are doing out there to get maximum value for the business and for the employees out of BBBEE. So with that in mind, Tania, can I hand over to you?
Yes. Thank you so much, Andy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. Let me just bring up. For joining today's conversation, where I'll be discussing the other elements of the BBBEE scorecard and how you can open up opportunities, not only to the business to score more points, but to also demonstrate to your decision makers at these businesses how BBBEE can be implemented in a creative and impactful manner. So I'm going to jump straight into it. If we look at this picture over here, it's BBBEE is really, it boils down to a matter of perspective. The gentleman on the left-hand side sees that number as a number 6, but the gentleman on the left-hand side sees it,
Tania,
sorry, on the left-hand side, sorry?
Tania, your screen hasn't come up yet.
Ah, okay, let me just quickly fix that. Is it up now, Andy?
Yes, there it goes. It's not yet in presentation mode though. There we go. All good.
Okay, perfect. So as I was saying, with BBBEE, it really becomes a matter of perspective. When companies look at BBBEE, they see it as maligned and misunderstood. And if we look at the picture there, the gentleman on the left-hand side sees the number as a number 6, but the gentleman on the right-hand side sees it as a number 9. And that's really how BEE is viewed. It's often viewed as an indirect tax on businesses. So companies feel that they're spending, and what are they spending for? It's just another way for government to place a tax on them. It appears to be complex to implement. We all know that BEE is very complicated. But when you have specialists such as a BEE consulting company or your skills development experts who are very in touch and in tune with the BEE requirements, it doesn't have to be as complex as people often see it to be. It's also it's seen as a tick box exercise. So yes, when it comes to verification, it has to be a tick box exercise. But in terms of companies implementing it, it does not have to be seen as a tick box exercise. You'll often hear your decision makers within companies saying that there's no true transformation with BBBEE. It's just an expensive exercise for us to get to this level. And even when we do get to the level, what impact have we actually had on businesses? So, or the economy at large? And if you see at the bottom there, that's our role. We have to make sure as specialists within these industries that we change how decision makers view BBBEE. That is and we have to stand out in showing them what is the impact in terms of the bottom line within the company. So if we have to spend this large amount of money on BBBEE initiatives, well, how is our business actually benefiting with the amount of money we have to spend? And you know, it's again us as the specialists within the industry, we have to put our guidance forward and show them that when you're putting BEE initiatives together and implementing it, it has to be geared towards developing SMMEs within the industries across the South African economy. Once small businesses start to grow, that really makes the business entity that is trying to gain that BEE level, it helps them to also stand out because it shows that they are implementing really great BEE initiatives. And that's the essence of BBBEE. The essence of BBBEE is to show true transformation and to show how are these BE initiatives actually benefiting the growth of small businesses in the country, but also to develop the economy. And that's what today's talk is going to be about. I'm going to be unpacking enterprise development, supply development, and socioeconomic development. But part of that, because we are all in skills, I'm going to also demonstrate how does skills development then fit into the puzzle across these elements. If we're to look at unpacking enterprise and supplier development, the first thing is you do need to understand what is the difference between these two. With enterprise development, when you consider an enterprise development beneficiary, that means that you are a business who is benefiting from the measured entity. The measured entity, this is a BEE term, is the organization that is trying to score the specific BEE level that they desire. So in terms of who is an enterprise development beneficiary, it's a business who benefits from this measured entity, but they are not part of the current supply chain. So to give you a practical example, if company A was a small business and they approached, for example, ASDSA, and they've never ever provided a service to ASDSA before, they can approach ASDSA and ask ASDSA, we would like to be considered as an enterprise development beneficiary. We've never provided a service to you before. And ASDSA would then look at it and say, right, we do have money that we need to incur, spend on under enterprise development. They would then determine how much money needs to be given over to the small business. But the most important thing is the small business needs to also inform ASDSA what exactly do they need assistance with. And under enterprise development and supply development, you can ask for anything and everything. So what I mean by that is, if I was a small business and I've moved into new premises and I'm really struggling to pay my rental, I can approach a company that I've never provided a service to before and actually ask them, can you please consider me as a beneficiary under enterprise development? And my rental is costing me 10,000 Rand a month, and I need assistance for the next 6 months. So it's total of 60,000 Rand that I'd like as a donation. And you will find that in terms of the bigger companies, they want these smaller businesses to come forward to them, because it becomes such a nightmare for them to try and sift through finding enterprise development beneficiaries. Because remember, it's companies that have never provided a service to them before. When we look at,
if I can clarify, so essentially what I think you're saying is that it's, if a business wants to look at enterprise and supply development, we can either look at some of our current suppliers, or we can look at any other business.
Yes.
And 100%. We can gain BE points. Okay,
yes.
Cool, thank you.
So with supplier development, that is money that the entity needs to spend on that on their own supply chain. So remember, if you approach, you can actually go as a small business and approach any of your current suppliers and say to them, can I be considered as a supply development beneficiary? So just, I want you to understand the difference there is that enterprise development means that you've never been a service provider to the company, where supplier development means that you are in their supply chain already. And I often say to small businesses, don't be scared to go and ask for the money, because the small businesses are too scared to go forward and request assistance. And I can tell you that from the bigger businesses side, they also don't want to just be forward and approach a small business and say, do you need assistance? Another example, in 2016, I actually approached one of my clients and said to them, I need assistance with, because I wanted to go into my office for the first time and take up premises. And I said to them, I need assistance with rental. And they were so happy that I asked them, and they said that the reason they never have gone into their supply chain is because they don't want to come across as a company that's coming in and sort of looking at a small business as a charity. And I said to them, no, by all means, please go to all your supply chain small businesses and ask them if there is any assistance that they need. So number one, do not be scared to go and ask to be considered a beneficiary under one of these elements. When we're looking at unpacking socioeconomic development, now socioeconomic development is, it's known as SED. It's the previous CSI, which is your corporate social investment. It's now termed social economic development. And under socioeconomic development, here the essence of socioeconomic development is the measured entity is going into a community and they are looking to develop a community, or they might even give funds towards an NGO who is geared towards developing a specific community. So contributions are made to individuals or to communities. It can be monetary or non-monetary. What I mean by that is that if we take ASDSA, for example, again, ASDSA could go into a community and look at all the small businesses within that community. And instead of coming through and saying, we're going to give money to each of these small businesses, they can actually say, we want to educate these small business owners on understanding the various banking products that we offer, understanding how to use our online banking systems, and how to tap into loans and various products that the bank offers. That's not a monetary contribution, but it's still a contribution that's going to upskill those business owners in the community. One of the important things that will be looked at under socioeconomic development is that the beneficiaries of these funds that are going to be provided under SED must be Black. So it must be African, colored, or Indian. So those business owners I mentioned, they have to either be African, colored, or Indian, because you have to demonstrate that as the measured entity that you've spent and you have developed these individuals. It's also aimed at improving the lives of the underprivileged within South Africa, and it has to be in an impactful manner. Again, here, us as the specialists need to put that forward. So I come across a lot of companies who just give money to a school, or they just give money to an orphanage, and they never really know what happens to that money. Does the money actually get down to the individuals that need it? So it's important for us as specialists to put forward to the companies that, yes, we're donating to the school, but let's create a long-term strategy. So if we're donating 100,000 Rand to a school, what is that 100,000 Rand going to be used for? Perhaps it can be used for ensuring that there are additional extra classes, for example, on entrepreneurship courses for matriculants who are going to be leaving the school. Let there also be, and also once those matriculants leave the school, they can then also feed into the company's skills development initiatives. So under socioeconomic development, if you're a training provider, you can go in and say, I will gladly offer bridging courses for those learners who matriculated, or let's say they failed matric, and now they need to actually just pass certain subjects within the matric modules, but they don't have the money now. That those particular learners don't have the money to go and spend on that. So you as a training provider can tap into socioeconomic development money, tell the business that you're coming in and you're going to develop these learners, and perhaps even put them on a bridging course. Once they complete that bridging course, these learners can then be placed on a bursary, on a learnership, where those points can then be scored under skills development. So this is where the pieces of the puzzle come together and fitting them all in while you're actually providing skills development solutions. And again, to promote transformation, diversity, and inclusion of Black people into various industries. Yes?
Tania, sorry, question from Shiralan. Tania, does socioeconomic development only falls under NPO, or can PTY Limited also approach, because my experience, the focus on NPO, the focus is an NPO. Please talk around that approach.
Yes, so that's a very good question. It does not only have to be an NPO or an NGO. It can be a private company. So, for example, I can approach, or ASDSA can approach ASDSA and say that we would like to go into a community and we would like to train people within this community to become skills development facilitators. And by doing so, the company can provide that socioeconomic development money to ASDSA to go and give that particular training. So you do not have to be an NGO, you do not have to be an NPO, you can be a private entity that is going in and tapping into the socioeconomic development money. However, please, there's a lot of companies out there that tend to do that, that are private organizations, but you have to ensure that whatever money is being given to you, you have to go and ensure you are developing previously disadvantaged individuals, because part of the verification process is they are going to ask you, who are the individuals that have benefited from this and how have they benefited? So you need to provide evidence, and your evidence can be, we've provided these skills programs, trained them on X, Y, and Z training programs, and they are now able to enter into first year into university or the TVET college or onto a learnership or bursary program. So there is no restriction in terms of who can apply for funding under your socioeconomic development. Okay.
Thanks.
Right. So why do we need to look at enterprise supply development and socioeconomic development? Because there's 22 potential points that you can score across these elements. So if we had to quickly break it down, just checking time, if we break it down, a company can score 10 points automatically by incurring a spend of 2% of their net profit after tax. Now, for medium-sized businesses, that 2% might work out to something like 100 to 200,000 Rand. But when you're looking at the bigger companies, like your banks and like even your insurance companies, your big companies, that 2% can go up to 2 to 3 million Rand. So obviously the company is not going to take that 2-3 million Rand and just invest it into one small business. They have to then actively go out and seek small businesses to spend this money on. And it becomes a massive process for them to do. And that's why I'm sure that you would have noticed over the past few years now, there's a lot of small businesses that are coming up now that specifically provide services under enterprise and supplier and socioeconomic development to the bigger organizations, because it's a massive task to go through. So there's automatically 10 points that you can score by incurring the 2% of net profit after tax. Under enterprise development, there's 5 points to be scored. It's only 1% of your net profit after tax that has to be incurred. However, there's also bonus points. Now, on the bonus points, if a business, again, let's use ABSA. If ABSA took company A and they gave company A 30,000 Rand for enterprise development, and that assisted them with certain operational functions. If that small business is a cleaning service, and ABSA then realizes, we actually have one building that we need a new cleaning service provider. Why don't you come in and provide the service to us? If ABSA does that, what that means is that ABSA has now progressed the enterprise development beneficiary who has never provided a service before to now providing them with a service. So they now are part of their supply chain. And ABSA can claim 1 bonus point for progressing that company from being a non-supplier to now a supplier within their supply chain. So that's one easy point that they've gained there. And another additional bonus point that can be obtained is through job creation. So not many people know this, especially if you are not really involved in BEE as such. You can approach a company and say to them that, if you give me funds under enterprise or supplier development, but these funds are actually going to help me to bring an individual permanently into my company, because at the moment I don't have the funds to take this person on permanently. So if ABSA were to give, let's say, 10,000 Rand a month, and it's 120,000 Rand for the year, and they give that over to, whether it's in their supply chain or not, by creating that job, ABSA can automatically claim a bonus point for creating one job. What the evidence that is needed there is that the small entity must be able to provide an employment contract to show that the person has been employed within the organization. Even if that person leaves the company, let's say after 3 months, it didn't work out, you do not have to give the money back to ABSA, because it did help you, and it will help you to still find a new person and bring them on board as well. So that's very important. The bonus points are great additional points that companies can score on. When we're looking at socioeconomic development, it's also only 1% net profit after tax, and that's 5 additional points that the company can score. So, Andy, I just want to check if there's any questions in terms of the points here.
No questions at this time.
Okay. Well, how do we make our BEE points count? This is if anything, this is the slide that I want you really to focus on, because I'm going to give practical examples on how we can make enterprise and supplier development funds count. So when we look at enterprise, supplier development, and socioeconomic development, before I delve into the bullet points, one important point Under any of these elements, if you are providing training as a service within this funding that you are going to be receiving, your training does not need to be accredited. The company will be able to claim that full spend that they've spent under these elements. Whereas the skills development element, which Amanda spoke about last week, under skills development element, your training has to be accredited if you want to claim 100% of that spend. If it's not accredited, you get capped at 25%. But under enterprise, supply and development and socioeconomic development, what it boils down to is who are the beneficiaries that are benefiting from whatever money has been given to the small entity. And your training programs do not have to hold any accreditation here. So again, under enterprise and supply development, there's additional points to achieve from job creation. Under skills programs that you offer into the supply chain, so this is a really nice one. The supply chain of businesses often have your small business owners. And if you are a training provider, you can go to a measured entity and say to them, let's look at your supply chain and let us help your small business owners to upskill themselves. So whether it's upskilling them in understanding running their payroll or understanding just how to deal with HR, because as small businesses grow and your staff complement grows, you now have to all of a sudden as a business owner deal with HR matters, which you've maybe never dealt with before. So you can go in and you can provide a range of different training programs for the supply chain. The same for enterprise development. You can also go and you can develop either your own staff or you can develop staff within the measured entity. So I'm going to give an example of my business. You know, I provide skills development services. So I've actually approached a new client and I've said to them, we have our learner wellness program, but do you have enterprise development money you need to spend? And they did. They had quite a large number that they needed to spend on enterprise development. And I said to them, well, consider my company as an enterprise development beneficiary, but with you giving that funds to me, I'm not going to just utilize that funds for whatever. I would like to give back to you. So with the money you're giving to me, I would like to look at your learnerships that you're implementing, and I'd like to come in and embed our learner wellness sessions for your learnerships. So the company really jumped at that opportunity because not only am they now gaining points by giving the money over to my company, but they're gaining because now they've got learner wellness implemented not only into their learnerships, but also implemented for their own employees. So it's a win-win situation for them. And that's what us as the skills development facilitators, specialists, training providers, we need to think creatively, because at the end of the day, we also need to survive. So we need to be able to go in and say, yes, give us the money, but we'll also give you something in return. Under socioeconomic development, as I mentioned there, it's to develop a community. You can also provide training programs there. And again, it doesn't have to be accredited programs. And what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is to have an impact on businesses, the business that wants to score the points, SMMEs, the unemployed within these communities, and the main thing, we want to be able to score 22 points for the measured entity. So us as the skills development specialists, BBBEE consultants, training providers, we have to be the ones guiding the decision makers within these companies that have to implement the BBBEE initiatives. And that brings me to the end.
A question from Renelle, Tania. She says, I listened to a podcast last week about a constitutional court ruling around BEE. Are you aware of this, and what are the implications for businesses?
Okay, I need more information in terms of what was the ruling, because there's so many different things that pop up in the media. So I'm not sure exactly. If you do know, I think you said Renelle, if you can share one.
Can you give us a few more hints as to which ones you're referring to? Are there any other questions? Now we have 5 minutes left. So any other questions, please post them, or any other comments. Renelle, if you can just give us which ruling you're referring to. I remember the ruling myself, but I can't.
I know there was something that came out. I can't now pinpoint exactly because I've been very busy with the WSPs and all of that. But there was a ruling, but it was not really around changes to legislation. But I think with the BEE Commission just coming down a bit harder on certain companies that are kind of utilizing loopholes within the system. But
No,
well, if Ronelle can share.
Ronelle's comment is, it was just mentioned that BEE is struck. If I recall, there was, no, I haven't got it clear in my head.
I think there might have even been something that Marina might have posted on the
Marianne
group
says, I think she's referring to the preferential procurement case. Concord said it's unconstitutional for government to apply these rules for tenders.
I'm not 100% sure. So I do definitely need more information. It doesn't ring a bell for me immediately. But what Ronelle can do is she's welcome to email the details of that, and I'll look into it and respond to our director or put it onto the WhatsApp group.
Cool. Thanks, Tania.
Okay, pleasure.
Other questions or comments? Cheryl Ann says, I think it's around the minister's powers. That does ring a bell.
Yes. So that was purely, it was actually on the group that Marina had posted, and it was specifically relating to what powers the minister has, not necessarily any changes in legislation. But we can still just look into that if Ronelle sends after the session.
Cool. Thanks. Ronelle, if you wouldn't mind doing that. Jonathan Brawns, I'm also wondering about the future of BEE, given that there are growing concerns that BEE in cadre deployment has had a negative impact on the South African economy. Have you heard anything, any rumors? What's your thought?
BEE is here to stay. It's not going to go anywhere. And I really think that it's you know, to the first slide that I spoke about, that a lot of companies look at it as it's just a pain to have to deal with. But there's so much good that comes out of BBBEE if it's implemented in the correct manner. And we have to be the ones guiding those companies and showing them the benefits, you know, not only to the benefit of unemployed youth, because our unemployment rate is extremely high, but also showing with small businesses and how we develop those small businesses and how they can feed into BBBEE. I've seen a number of companies now over the past 2 years where they've had to retrench employees because of COVID, where they've now opened up a part of their business, and they're saying that, you know, yes, we've had to retrench these employees, but we'd like to see and guide our employees. Is there a business that they'd like to open up, and can we give them BEE loans? Can we support them in the business that they potentially want to open up? And that helps to boost the economy. So BEE is definitely here to stay. It's not going to be going anywhere. We have to just change the way it's viewed within organizations.
A comment from Ronelle. Sustainable BEE is not window dressing is the way to go.
Yes, 100%. And I think also for us as specialists in the industry, we also have to put our hand up when we see that our clients or companies are fronting or they're doing something that does not look legitimate. I've had a number of companies approach me and say, will you be our Black BEE partner, or can you through your business, because I'm 100% Black female owned, can you through your business purchase products from a certain company, and that sale must go through your business so we can claim the BEE points? And I say no. As much as there's money being dangled, you know, our country is riddled with corruption and just lots of issues in terms of corruption with funding, and we are the ones that have to also put our hands up and say no, that's not right, and walk away from clients who want to operate in that manner.
What I'm certainly taking away, Tania, is that there are a lot of opportunities with these 3 areas that you need to be creative in terms of looking at what's in the actual business and see how you can get maximum mileage within your unique circumstances, because there will be options, but it's a tailor-made solution. It's not sort of one size fits all. Yes. Also, just a comment from Cheryl Ann, she'd like to chat with you privately out of here.
No problem. So yes, Cheryl Ann, I am on the WhatsApp group. If you are on, you can private message me there, and we can chat. And Ronelle as well.
Please, everyone, also remember the CPD points are there. So please, if you're looking for CPD points, click on the link and get your CPD points. We are just on coming up to 10 o'clock. Are there any final questions for Tania? All quiet. So Tania, thank you. That's been a very, very interesting presentation, very useful presentation. Other people on the chat box are saying that as well. Ronald, Marianne, Andrea, Elsie, lots of thanks. So thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Andy. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Bye then.